Today, we're diving into a really powerful report from the Church of England. It's called Fearfully and Wonderfully Made, and it takes a close look at the well-being of its disabled and neurodivergent clergy. And it all kicks off with this truly beautiful idea. Right from the start, the report introduces us to the Japanese art of kintsugi. And the idea behind it is, well, it's simple but really profound. When a piece of pottery breaks, you don't just toss it out or try to hide the cracks. No, you mend it with gold. The whole point is to honor its history, making the piece even more beautiful and valuable because it was broken. It's this incredible metaphor for finding strength and beauty in our own journeys and what we might see as imperfections.
And this wasn't just some clever metaphor the report's authors came up with. The idea came directly from the clergy they spoke with. They actually saw their own lives, their own spiritual journeys reflected in this incredible art form, this process of mending, of finding new strength, and creating a unique kind of beauty.
So let's keep that image in our minds, okay? The beautifully broken bowl. Because that whole idea of finding strength, not in spite of our experiences, but because of them, is absolutely central to everything this report uncovers.
Okay, so where does this all come from? Well, this report is part of a huge, decade-long research project called Living Ministry. It's been tracking what helps ministers thrive. And this particular study zooms in on the real, lived experiences of clergy who are disabled, neurodivergent, or both.
And look, this isn't some tiny niche issue we're talking about. The report points out that 13.2% of people currently training for ordination have declared a disability. That's a really significant and growing part of the church's future leadership.
But before we can really dig into what they found, we have to get on the same page about what a keyword actually means here. The report is very deliberate about the language it uses, and it draws this super important line between two different ways of thinking about disability. So here's the crucial point. The report intentionally moves away from the phrase having a disability, which, puts all the focus on a person's individual condition. Instead, it uses the term being disabled. Now, why does that matter? Well, it's a huge shift. It frames the problem around society and its structures. In other words, the issue isn't a person's impairment. The issue is they are disabled by a world that's full of barriers that aren't designed to include them.
So, where do these barriers start? Well, the report found they start right at the very beginning, the selection process, what the church calls discernment. For so many of these candidates, it felt like trying to walk through a door that just wasn't built for them.
This quote from someone they spoke with, a woman named Iona, really just gets to the heart of it. No one told me how it was done. See, it's not always about physical barriers like ramps. It's about trying to navigate a whole culture with all these unspoken rules and hidden assumptions that can make you feel like an outsider from the moment you show up.
And Iona's story, sadly, wasn't unique. The report found a clear pattern of these systemic barriers. We're talking about a culture of unwritten rules, a serious lack of role models who look like them, theological colleges that just weren't equipped to adapt, and then even their first job placements were often poorly supported. All these early struggles really set a difficult tone that lasted long after they were ordained.
So if that's what it's like just getting in the door, what happens once you're actually inside the institution? Well, this brings us to the next big theme, clergy facing what the report directly calls ableism and oppression, not necessarily from mean-spirited people, but from the very system itself.
The report defines ableism as these inherited assumptions and processes that put clergy at risk. Again, notice the focus is squarely on those structural issues, the "this is just how we've always done things around here" mindset that fails to account for people's different needs.
And the cost of that system? It's huge.
Just look at this. It's not just one thing. It hammers every single part of a person's life. Their physical and mental health suffers. Their relationships become strained. Their ability to even participate fully is reduced. And maybe most heartbreaking of all, it can even damage their core sense of spiritual purpose and calling. Now, after laying all of this out, all these really tough challenges, the report doesn't just leave us there. It absolutely points to a way forward. And the solution it offers is so simple, you might almost miss how profound it is. This comes from the bishop who wrote the report's foreword. He was asked how churches can get better at inclusion. And his answer wasn't a 10-point plan or a new policy. It was simply this: listen, listen, listen. The path forward, he argues, doesn't begin with some grand strategy. It begins with the simple, radical, and profound act of actually listening to people's lived experiences. So, Yeah, this report is about the Church of England, but the question it leaves us with, that's for all of us. It doesn't matter if it's a church, a company, a school, or just our own community. Are we building places where people are just sort of allowed in? Or are we building places where every single person, with all their history, all their cracks and all their gold, can actually truly flourish?